Okay, we're live. Yay! Friends, I am so excited. Today I'm going live multiple times with people that I enjoy being in conversation with, and Ahmed Baba is that person that I said after this win, these series of wins last night. Who could I talk to about this energy, this feeling? Because you and I spoke, you joined the fire pit a couple of weeks ago, one of my first guests, and I was just so grateful for you to join. And we were in conversation, being in the struggle, being
hmm
in this, how are we fighting through this fascism? What are we doing? And so here we are today. I want to get your thoughts on your feeling last night when the news started to roll in, because again, we haven't experienced, Ahmed, an election in the last couple that hasn't been days that
Yeah.
we're waiting. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't remember the last time, I guess maybe it was 2016,
Yeah.
that an election was decided that day. We have gotten accustomed to this shit being dragged out for days, if not weeks, right? And so talk to me about your feeling last night as the results start to come in. And it's like, oh, this isn't just one win or two wins. This is a motherfucking sweep.
This was a tsunami. It was a blue way. I was hyped. I mean, hyped is just, it was just great to see validation of what, like, I've been for weeks and months been talking about how weak the GOP is and all these polling numbers. And, we have some special elections here and there, but this was a demonstrable, unmistakable display of this party's toxicity, their weakness, the people's power. I was overjoyed. Like you said, normally we have to wait to see within minutes. We always see decision desk, we'll call it first, but they're never really wrong. So you're like, okay, but I want to wait, maybe till AP, NBC. Before the next round of polls close, we had Spanberger win. Then we had Mikie Sherrill win.
Yep.
Then Mamdani win. And then Prop 50. And then Georgia Public Service Commission. Like, it was an avalanche of W's. And it feels so good to like have, a moment of hope validated by real world results and not just like us having to cope with the situation. It's been beautiful to see.
Tell me what you think. And again, look, what you feel, I should say, was the difference maker, right? Like in this moment. Because again, last year, this time, I thought we had it. I thought Harris had it. I thought the rallies, these enormous rallies, people in the streets, like, the lines. And I'm also not convinced she didn't have it. But
Yeah.
my thought is we became fearful of hope, I
Mm-hmm.
think, after that. And so what do you feel like changed over the last, year in the American people, in these candidates? Like, what do you think the secret sauce was?
I think something that I can't say when we're both on TV. I could say it happened here. Americans realize he's full of shit. Again, that's what happened. What happened is just like 2017, he comes in here, you see the damage he's wrought. His fundamental promise was on affordability. He comes in and the first thing he does is raise prices. Literally a policy that is only designed to raise prices. He's doing these authoritarian power grabs. He also was attacking the individual states and constituents of the people who are up for who had elections. Virginia, hundreds of thousands of people unemployed in Northern Virginia. Like those layoffs were hitting them hard, right? And then Jersey, he's targeting the Jersey Tunnel Project, him and Russell Vogt, right? He's literally taking vindictive action to target the American people, not just his enemies, the American people.
Yep.
And I think and then people are realizing, oh, hell no. And we're seeing, even in New York, Mamdani got a solid percentage. I think I saw somewhere it was like about 8% of Trump supporters from 2024. Like, this is people recognizing they don't want to be lied to, and then this man rubbing it in our faces with a Gatsby themed party, and he's just living out his dream of being an interior designer. He's updating the bathroom, he's doing the East Room, and people, I think, needed to unfortunately maybe touch the fire again once and for all to see an unrestrained Trump and with the guardrails gone, because first term, first year, Gary Cohn prevented the worst of this tariff stuff. Hate him or love him, Jeff Sessions prevented some of the even worse immigration stuff, and it's the DOJ stuff, right? So I think like the guardrails are gone, and Americans are getting unmitigated Donald and realizing that every single liberal warning was correct, if not tame. And I think that's what that recognition is. And I think the GOP's cooked going into 2026. I mean, I said this on our last episode too.
Yep.
But I think this is now demonstrable proof.
Tell me how you think, though. So this is demonstrable proof, right?
Yeah.
We also know that the Supreme Court is going to be hearing the vote, making a decision. They already heard the voting rights case, right? That would call Article 2 basically allowing for this extreme gerrymandering that Republicans have been doing, but to the extent that there's a possibility of adding 20 more seats to the House, cementing their power grab over Congress. That is coming. That decision is coming in June of 2026. That being said, how do you make sense of what has happened, people powered in this moment, and what we're still up against 8 months from now?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that gerrymandering case, the racial gerrymandering case, is going to be huge. But I do think it is going to come a little too late. If it came now, there'd be more time for them to redraw the districts, rather, because if you do it in June, we might end up having the same kind of districts we have currently in 2026. It'll be more of an impact on 2028 with that case specifically. But again, like the broader attacks generally are going into next year. Like we have Heather Honey at CISA and DHS, and they're talking about declaring emergency declarations to try to impact the votes or seize voting. They're talking about crazy stuff out of the 2026 midterm. So basically what you're getting at is like, how do we find hope in this when there's very clear attempts from the administration to interfere next year? And again, one of the bellwethers again was another election, 2022, right? Where all those election deniers lost. I think, people sometimes forget that like there was 13 election deniers that ran. Of 13 races where election deniers ran in those 6 battleground states, they all lost. So key states are now run by Democrats, and they run these elections, and they're going to be real guardrails against some of those federal interference. When it comes to the gerrymandering stuff, we're starting to see a couple. I did a video on this recently. Some of the people are not going along with the Trump gerrymander at the current moment. So like Kansas just now last night, as we were getting the Prop 50 results, dropped their potential gerrymandering bid. We see Republicans in Nebraska that are also pushing back. Vance has had to visit Indiana several times to try to convince them to go along with the gerrymandering. They have not yet. New Hampshire. So it's like, we're starting to see cracks.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see real cracks in Trump's power. People are defying him within his administration at the state level, more so than people are really giving him credit for. And I just think all of this, especially this election, it's not going to give Republicans more incentive to fall in line with them. I think just today we're seeing Trump blaming the shutdown, and they had a Senate meeting. They had a meeting.
Like, it's shutdown. So who are you, sir? Who are you blaming?
Yeah, but like it's just they're spooked. The thing is, like, there was fear from the readouts I'm getting. They're blaming. They're living in reality. As much as they try to tell us they're all powerful and he's going to get a third term, all that nonsense. It's a lot of it is, yes, it's authoritarian ambitions and their real actions, but a lot of it is chest beating. They're actually afraid, and they know they're cooked in 2026, and that's what all these gerrymandering, all this stuff is about. So I guess the way I weigh it is that like, if they're still showing displays of fear, that's just an indicator to me that like we're cooking and they're cooked.
Here is the thing. When, Donald Trump had a meeting with his sycophants this morning, and he said, this was not good for Republicans, basically saying that democracy is not good for Republicans. It was like
Yeah.
kind of like a Freudian slip, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't on the ballot, and and the shutdown and all of these things, and I'm just like, you're not going to be on the ballot. You are a lame duck.
Mm-hmm.
There is no one that has the cult of personality hold that you do, and you are seeing that. Everything you touch turns to shit,
Yep.
including people's campaigns, right?
Mhm.
Because everyone that he backed lost, right? And this is not the first time that we've seen this happen. We saw this happen back in his first term, that after he won and then he was pushing for, for, like you said, in 2020, lost, right?
Yep.
Like everyone that he touches, they lose. And so what do you think it signals, right? Because I talked about this earlier with my friend Jared Yates Sexton on our show, The Check-In, where we said these oligarchs got together,
Mm.
spent $22 million to try and upset Mamdani. $22 million. No, that's no sweat off their back. That's like money they find in the couch. What does this symbolize? This decisive win in New York City, the heart of finance, not just for the country, but the world in many ways, that the oligarchs couldn't buy this election, couldn't scare us into believing that Mamdani, who was 9 during 9/11, was somehow the mastermind behind it. That they couldn't fear us, push us into fear around Muslim people. They couldn't push us into believing, their capitalistic greed was the only way forward. What do you think that this decisive win in New York City means?
I think New York City, Mamdani in particular, is literally, it's just a once in a like generation political figure. And the way he handled this, a lot of the reasons why the attacks didn't work is because he gave him he gave him no mind, he paid him no fodder. He was so disciplined. Like when you call you, they're fear mongering. They're saying he's gonna go after Jewish people. He's gonna do all this, and then when they hear him speak about Jewish people, he's talking about how he went to bar mitzvahs when he was young and how he loves them. Right? Like the people are beginning to catch on to the demagogues. Is really what I'm starting to see. They're catching on to the disinformation. They know when they're being fed nonsense, and the reason why it didn't work in New York is because these people live here. Like if you were to run if these ads probably work for Fox News audiences in rural Kansas who don't live here. If you live in New York, you live around other people who are Muslim. You shop at bodegas with Latinos. You have black neighbors. You are friends with people that look just like Zohran Mamdani. So that's why it didn't work here on the fear mongering side. On the money side, people like I know people who do have higher incomes that probably will be taxed by Mamdani, but they want to pay that.
Yep.
People recognize that this economy doesn't work the way it is, and they know that we need to make changes to basically lift all boats. And I think that that's what the shift is with Mamdani. Like it's not some like that's why it works. Spanberger, Mikie Sherrill, they ran on their own versions of affordability that fit their states. Like it's about this need to help. Like I think the overall message we're going to see next year is that this party wants to help you while Republicans and Trump want to help themselves. And they're indicating that through their policies. And I think with Zohran specifically, it's very hard to paint that guy who's smiling literally 24/7 as some evil maniac that's going to come and get you. Like the fear mong, I really think we're hitting some kind of turning point here where Americans are just kind of waking up to the bullshit. Like you can only be lied to so many times.
Yep.
You have some, you have this fear mongering about immigrants. There's they're poisoning the blood, and then the images we see is people's grandmas getting deported. Like people, they know what's going on, and I think that's what we're seeing here.
Let's talk about the Democratic Party, right? Because establishment Democrats, as much as, to your point, the Republicans have shown their ass and have shown that their lies don't work, what we also saw is a Democratic establishment try and take down a Democratic socialist. What we also saw is that in the 11th hour, Hakeem Jeffries then decides to come out and say, oh, yeah, I guess I'll endorse him. But when asked if this was the future of the Democratic Party, said he is not the future of the Democratic Party. You had Chuck Schumer, who was asked, okay, so you voted. Who did you vote for? Right? And say, I voted and that should be enough. The Democratic establishment showed their entire ass.
Yeah.
And he won despite them. So when folks talk about what does the future of the Democratic Party look like, what is your reaction? What are your thoughts to what we have seen play out over the last several months?
I think the answer for Hakeem could have been simple with that question. It's probably something similar that I would say now. I think Zohran is a future of the Democratic Party, and Spanberger is a future, and Sherrill is a future. And, it's not, we're a big tent. The Democrats are a big tent, and I think what it is like, I think his tactics and his way of speaking to the people, he fit this state in this moment. And that should have been enough for them to back him instead of falling victim to the propaganda. Like, it's the stuff that's fear-mongering about him. It's propaganda. It's nonsense, and they act like I'm married into a Jewish family. They all love Zohran. He's not like, he doesn't scare every Jew in New York. It's nonsense, right? And I think Jeffries should have known better than to placate that. I also think there was a personal thing there, just some side tea. I saw some old footage of like an event where Zohran was speaking ahead of Jeffries and kind of like attacked Jeffries a little bit before Jeffries went on to speak. I'm not sure if there was a personal thing going on there because it made literally zero political sense to me. Schumer, he's probably got decades of pro-Israel people in his life and stuff like that. There's other factors with him. Hakeem Jeffries, I don't understand that decision. But what I really do think is that what Democrats should take from this, they shouldn't be more factionalism on it. I think you have to recognize it's a big tent party. You're going to have your Zohran Mamdanis. You're going to have your Mikie Sherrill. You're going to have your Ruben Gallego in Arizona. You're going to have but you tie them all together under the mantle of affordability. You let them run their individual races that work in those states, in those districts, so that you can then begin to build a big tent coalition that can be anti-authoritarian. So I think that's what they should be leaning on, is like, what are the connective tissues within the party that you can make the broad beacon of the party, which we're going to see this debate play out in 2028, more so than 2026. But you don't shun you don't shun specific candidates when your people chose them. He was elected. He was a Democratic nominee. You back him, and you maneuver. So I thought it was poor leadership.
Frankly. Yeah, I will say this. I'm ready for them to be swept out. Jeffries and Schumer, it's time to fucking go. I am done with accepting the bare minimum, and I think that is what they stand for. I think that centrist Democrats, they work depending, right, on what state that they are in when you're talking about state races. But when we're talking about the map, right, when we're talking about combating authoritarianism and oligarchs that are trying to create this Gilded Age 2.0, when we're talking about people not having food, and we're talking about, folks going unhoused, right? Like, and the thing that you think is going to get your message across is to pick whatever facet of the party and throw under the bus. Miss me with it. Miss me with the fucking bullshit that you can't both stand for Palestinian people and the rights of trans people and the dignity of Israel, of Jewish people, and right, the needs of Black people. Like, miss me with the fact that you get to pick and choose what part of the party you're not going to stand for when it's politically expedient. Yeah. And what Mamdani showed is that, guess what? I'm not going to apologize about being a Muslim and a brown man. I'm also not a representative of the entirety of my fucking community.
Of course.
I'm not going to throw trans people on the bus. I'm going to go where the people are instead of where the fucking donors are. Right? And showed people that what it means to have representation means that you don't have to take the crumbs, right? Means that you don't have to accept the status quo because it's better than what Donald Trump is offering, right? Because when you show me that a Stephen Miller and Elon Musk and a Donald Trump decided to back Cuomo, if you told me that was going to happen in 2020 and that was going to happen in 2020, I would tell you you were out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
But Bill Clinton backed Cuomo as well as Donald Trump, and these.
Yeah, you know, it's Obama called Zohran, talked to him for 30 minutes, said he would work with him. You know, I mean, he may not have endorsed him before, but like he's always been someone who knows where the winds blow. He started talking like him in the rallies. He was starting to sound like, you know, talking about the 1%, the anti-authoritarianism, anti-oligarchy. By the way, first off, you just preached. You were just spitting some fire. Just got to give you some props for that what you were saying there, because it's true, and it speaks to what people feel is that people want that authenticity, like that's what was lacking with the Hakeem and the Schumer approach to this. Is just that, like, your party and your people spoke in your state. That's what makes it worse. These aren't leaders from California.
Nope.
You know, like, maybe I give them the benefit of the doubt. You live here, bro. I'm pretty sure Hakeem is in my district. I'm in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Like, this is your place. Like, what, you couldn't have come to a better approach that maybe brought people together? Like, Zoran was working his ass off to try to appeal to people that, like, if it was really all about Israel and about the Jewish community, a lot of Jews have been won over by him.
Yep.
Because he's made appeals, he's spoken at synagogues. He is just it was like someone watching our own party leaders, Democratic Party leaders, fall prey to GOP propaganda. Like, you know, you would think they were watching Fox News and like taking their cues from them. Why are you, like, the country doesn't see Zoran that way? Like, that's not how he's seen. That's how right-wing media portrays him. But you're right. What people want is real leadership that represents the core of the base. And I don't want to do comparisons to the Tea Party, because the Tea Party is really like they were just vicious and like a signal of Trumpism. But just when it comes to the grassroots anger of the base, that is what we're seeing represented. Like, I think you could have run you could have run a lot of people in Jersey and Virginia, and they probably would have won, because it was just literally lifted up by its anti-Trump sentiment. People want people who can fight, not just to oppose Trump and return us back to normal. This isn't a return to normal, like you're saying. This is not a return to normal Biden, approach. People want a revamping of the system, a revamping of the economy. And I think Democrats need to approach it from that lens. Like, I've always been saying, like, the affordability stuff is good, but I think the next tier of that in 2028 is like talking about how we want to help people thrive,
Yep.
like, not just, people always say, oh, we want people to get by. No one wants to get by. No. Daniel, I don't know. Have you talked to anyone that's like, hey, I just want to get by? Everyone I know wants to thrive.
I don't need real oxygen. I just need my 2 nostrils to stick up out of the ocean, right? Like, that's not hand me a straw
exactly,
and I'm good with that.
No, they want revamps of all of this. They want brand new, bold, transformative visions for what the future can be, and not all these explanations of why we can't get that or why we can't afford that or why, no, it's like free buses doesn't sound insane to me. Yeah, he talked about taxing. He literally, I laid out how he was going to pay it. Like, doesn't sound insane to me, but because it's providing services to equal a playing field, that's too much for you. That's enough for you to claim he's going to, people, they have people attacking him saying, oh, this man's going to bring about the next 9/11. And then you hear him speak and he's talking about giving childcare and buses. I don't hear any extremism in that. And I think that is where we need to go. Like, people are not buying fake this is not the Red Scare. It's not working anymore. Americans are struggling. They're seeing through the nonsense. They're tired of being told policies that help them are secretly communists. And it's hard to make that argument when you're an authoritarian regime yourself. You're going to sit there and say, oh, free childcare is authoritarianism. Bro, you just fired hundreds of thousands of workers because they don't agree with you and they're not loyal to you. You're targeting free speech. You're trying, I think that's what last night showed, Daniel. I think, like, people are seeing through all of this. And it's not just, I think that, like your shirt says, I think the future is actually woke. I think we're about to see a great awakening, a resurgence. Mm-hmm. They thought the last one was bad. Like,
I think that you can't sell people bullshit when they are literally standing in food lines. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what Donald Trump has done. And you said that at the beginning. It's just like what I talked about earlier today is that we have always been in a class war. But what they layered on top of that class war was a bullshit culture war, right? That had
Mm-hmm.
us fighting amongst ourselves while they were robbing us
Yes.
blind, right? Having us care about who's in a fucking Cheerios commercial and who's using what fucking bathroom. Meanwhile,
Yes.
you can't buy a can of beans because you ain't got no fucking money, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like real things now. You're talking to us about, oh, well, 9/11 this, blah, 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 but you're getting Qatari jets worth 400 million using our money to upgrade that shit,
You're throwing
right?
down with
Like,
Saudi Arabia?
right?
Like,
You're telling us like, oh, these people are dangerous, but you over there like in bed, right? With these crypto crooks, right? So it's like it doesn't jive, right? Like you're
mhm.
holding a Great Gatsby themed party, essentially with strippers at Mar-a-Lago, and you're talking to us about family values while I'm watching Erica Kirk fucking caress JD Vance on stage. Miss me with like it doesn't make sense.
No, it does not. And I think the decadence of this, the shamelessness of all of this, is why it's rubbing people in the face. The corruption is staring people in the face. And you were right to talk about that strategy of feeding the base and the Americans' cultural grievances while they enrich themselves. That's the Nixon Southern strategy, right? That's been this approach for decades. And that's what they've been doing. And it's now clear as day because when you stop, they use, Reagan, they used welfare queens, they use different dog whistles. The dog whistles are gone. They just say it now. They say DEI instead of the N word. But basically what they mean is we're going to distract you with these cultural grievances while you can't pay your bills. And once Trump started directly attacking his own base, the farmers, you're gonna do this. You're gonna have these retaliatory tariffs so that China no longer buys American soybeans. And guess where they're buying it from? Argentina. So then you say, and then we're gonna bail out Argentina. And then instead of dealing with the screw worm crisis with the cattle ranchers, oh, we'll just buy beef from guess who? Argentina, our right wing buddy over there, and also help Besant's hedge fund friends, which is what it's really about, right? And again, Americans are seeing through all of this. It's this reverse Robin Hood. It was literally in their bill earlier this year.
Yep.
The message I've been saying for so long, and I think it's just so clear to people. It's an anti-corruption message. They're robbing us. They're looting the government before our eyes. Literally, who knows when this is over, when Democrats are finally able to subpoena the records, how many people are paying Trump with crypto that we don't even know about? We heard about these deals.
Because talk about crypto and how the reason why he pardoned CZ, who is in bed with World Liberty, which is his family's crypto grift, right? That added $5 billion to his wealth, but want to tell us on 60 Minutes he don't know who that motherfucker is, but you're in business with him? And you want us to believe that Don Jr. put this shit together? He can put together a line of coke. I'm pretty sure about that, but he can't put together fucking a deal, right? Like you got Dodo 1 and Dodo 2 in charge of this stuff. We know that your hand is in it, but then you're going to try and play stupid. And I think that that's the thing, is that this election night was about the American people saying, I'm tired of you playing in my face.
Yes. That's
what
it is.
I think that because we look at Virginia swept, now completely blue. New Jersey, Pennsylvania retained their Supreme Court. We got a black woman as mayor in Detroit. We got, Wu is back as the mayor of Boston. We got Mississippi broke a 13-year GOP stranglehold, right? And Democrats just broke through in Mississippi.
Yeah, it's insane. Those seats in Georgia, it's a statewide, the public commissioner there, the public service commissioners. You see, and then you look down the district level, Loudoun County in Virginia, these bellwether counties. Spanberger won it by 64%, which is about 7 or 8 points more than Harris won it. And it's a huge swing, like it's a massive swing we're seeing. And these districts are like all those swing districts across the country. We're going to see that play out next year in the midterms. And I think it was an unmistakable rebuking. And you're right. The Americans are saying, stop playing in my face. The No Kings protest, like,
Yep.
Trump just thought, what? That was just nothing. That was just like millions of people, at least 7 around the country. They weren't going to do anything after that. They weren't going to go volunteer in their states. They weren't going to mobilize. No, Americans are fed up, and I really do think that this is a turning point. I think we're going to start to see a broader paradigm shift of what, like, because I've been hopeful for a while now. I was actually, and even I was hopeful back when I saw them overreaching in Doge. I started being hopeful after week 1. I was a little scared, and then when Musk started going crazy, I actually got hopeful. Now it sounds counterintuitive, but I knew they were overreaching. I just knew they were overreaching, and I knew they were going to lose Virginia because there's another stat: 61% of households in Virginia where they have a federal worker or a federal contractor in the household voted for Spanberger. Like, you can't hurt people and expect them not to pay it back with votes against you. It's just not possible. And I think the hubris and the arrogance and the authoritarianism, it's all connecting, because people are seeing that, there was this debate about whether or not to do an anti-authoritarian message or just an affordability message. They're seeing that the authoritarianism itself, like we talked about when we were on MSNBC together at one time, it's a cost, and it's costing the Americans money. And they can see that he's not only enriching himself this time, like he did in the first term, he's enriching himself at the expense of us. And that is hard for people to stomach. Like, Trump voters could stomach a lot, but like the more they're personally impacted, if you build a movement based off selfishness, when it eventually hits their doorstep, they're not going to back you anymore.
So let me ask you this in the couple of minutes that we have left. Where do you believe we go from here? Right? Because I continue to say, and I said this last night when I was moderating a panel of queer people of color on what the queer agenda should be for Mamdani in New York City. And we were speaking about the fact that election night is not where things end, it's where it starts.
Yeah.
Right? Where your civic engagement begins is after the election. It's not one and done. We should never want to go back to a place where, I don't know who my representative is and I don't care because I'm just going to assume that they're doing the job they said that they were going to do.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to hold fast to this hope, Ahmed, but then continue to create the future that we want?
Well, I think for us as individuals, I think the American people commenting, by the way, I see all your comments. You all are amazing. You've been great this whole time. Stay engaged. Everyone just needs to stay engaged at the same level, right? Like, don't just organize on those protests. Don't just, you have to keep engaging. You have to keep showing up. You have to keep pressuring your lawmakers. With Mamdani specifically, with the leaders, I hope Mamdani doesn't stop campaigning while he's in office. Like, I think Obama did that, and it kind of ceded ground to right-wing grifters to fill the void, right? I think Zohran and other leaders need to take note. Like, when you're governing, also campaign on what you're doing. Let people know you're delivering, and do deliver, and try your best, and just at least show people you're fighting for them all the time. That's what the Democratic leadership needs to be doing. That's why I think the shutdown thing they did actually worked, right? As we could see, it was something that showed that they were fighting for people. Hopefully they resolve that now. But basically, yeah, I think people need to stay engaged. Also, individuals too, independent media like us, we got to be out here just doing our thing. Like, and if you guys are watching, feel free to subscribe. I mean, you probably already subscribed. Like, you subscribe, support, because we're seeing big shifts on that front. Like, I just did an episode with Don Lemon last week about this, the consolidation of right-wing media. Like, you need more voices out here who are pushing that truth. And I'd swear, the more we put pressure up, the more voices that are in unison on this. They can't slap everybody down, right? They try to go for Jimmy Kimmel. They try to go for, they try to Mahmoud Khalil. Like, they try to come for some individuals, but they can't come for all of us, right?
Right.
Like, so we have to all keep speaking out ferociously every day. And also, don't let them steal our hope or our joy. And last night was a big example of that. They've been creating this looming large narrative that they're these powerful authoritarians, and they're trying to be. But underneath that is deep, deep political weakness. All of it. They are weak. They are scared. That's what motivates all of this authoritarianism. The truth is, Donald Trump is a lame duck president.
Yep.
Right now, he has no more terms left. 2020 after 2026, he's cooked. He's going to be investigated by Dems. He's going to spend the last 2 years eroding his approval rating down closer to the 20s. He'll be in George W. Bush numbers, and then Democrats will have to deal with Vance or whatever. Maybe Vance and Erica Kirk will run on a ticket. I don't know what they got planned, but what I do know is that right now momentum has swung. This is the beginning of a shift, and I think Democrats got to move with that bravado and recognize that we're in W City right now. That last night was like an avalanche of W's. Like, feel that shit and go live and move with that energy and keep winning, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like I am about holding on to these wins, holding on and like building the momentum behind this. Like these are wins that were needed. It put wind back in our sails. It put wind back in our chests, for us to realize that like the people still have power. The
Yep.
oligarchs showed up. They put up their money. They put up their fear. They ran their ads and it didn't fucking work because our eyes are wide open, right? And I need people to stay and remain as woke as fucking possible because they want you to go back to sleep. They want you to numb yourself. They want you to be hopeless. And this is what this moment is showing us, is that when the people, right, link arms, when the people decide that they are ready for change, change happens. Before we get out of here, my friend, tell people how they can find you, how they can follow you and support your work.
Great. Yeah, I just saw Jamie in the comments. You said you just subscribed. You can find me at ahmedbaba.news. You can hit the subscribe button at the top. That's where I do a lot of my work. I'm doing more videos. You can find me on the socials as Ahmed Baba. I'm out here doing independent journalism. Been doing this for 10 years now, and I'm still going. And Danielle, you guys are probably already subscribing to her, but please do it. She's out here doing all these lives, killing it, and bringing that real truth telling. So appreciate you having me back on here. Oh, your conversations always get me fired up. Like I'm like doing my normal work, just doing my normal work and stuff. Like, and then I'm getting out here and I'm like, I'm about to go run through a wall after this and go see what like I can do next for real. Like,
I love it. And I appreciate you, my friend. Yes, please do, folks. Support independent media. Hit subscribe. I don't put any of my content behind a paywall because I believe that that is where critical thinking and democracy goes to die. But if you have a few bucks, do consider becoming a paid subscriber. But know that you will never miss anything. Continue to support independent media. Ahmed, thank you, my friend. We won. Let's
we
keep
won.
fucking winning. Let's keep the energy up, folks.
Let's go.
You.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.